Metro Exodus is a story-driven, post-apocalyptic, first-person shooter that takes place in Russia, and Metro Exodus is the third game in the series. The first two games, Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, were very linear, story-driven games, and Metro Exodus introduces a new concept to the series of these open sandbox areas, which give the player a whole lot more freedom and opportunity for choice in how they play the game, what their experience is going to be like, the pacing, and a whole lot more in customization, customizability, and being able to approach situations differently. There are a lot of new things that we're bringing to the series with Metro Exodus, but there are a lot of things that returning players will find very familiar. We tried to build these new experiences off of familiar layers. We don't want players to sit down and feel like they're playing a different, like some other game. We want them to sit down and instantly feel, oh, okay, this is a Metro game. But we wanted to bring new experiences to the franchise. Also, to have we wanted to flex our creative muscles a little bit, doing something a little bit different this time for ourselves as well. And in order to support these more open areas, we had to overhaul a lot of systems. We didn't want to get rid of any systems that were in, or features that were in the series in the past, particularly any that are very definitively Metro, kind of like the gas mask mechanics and things like that. But we needed to upgrade and potentially overhaul a number of systems. For example, the weapon system, completely rebuilt from the ground up. It's now modular. You can find upgrades, attachments, modifications around in the world, and on the fly, using your backpack, you can modify the configuration of the weapon depending on your intended approach to a certain situation. And even say you try to go into a building stealth and you screw up, you can you can go hide in a corner, open your backpack, and switch your loadout to approach the situation from a more combat-oriented perspective. Certainly, our influences are still remaining within the world of the Metro universe, created by Dmitry Glukhovsky, the writer of the books. We worked directly with him. We've worked directly with him on all three titles. The first game, Metro 2033, was based pretty faithfully on the book, and the second game, Metro Last Light, we wrote a new story for that with Dmitry, because his book, Metro 2034, kind of went in a different direction from the story that we wanted to tell. We wanted to continue Artyom's story, and again in Metro Exodus, that's what we're doing as well. We're continuing Artyom's story, and we worked with Dmitry again to write this story. And his third novel, Metro 2035, is actually the precursor to the story of Metro Exodus. So they kind of connect where Metro 2035 finishes. It leads directly into the story of Metro Exodus. We've tried to make sure that new players coming in will have the understanding and tools and backstory that they need in order to understand and enjoy the experience. I would obviously, of course, recommend people go back and play the original two games because they're great experiences. But we're trying to make it so that it's accessible to new players, but also at the same time not at the burden of returning players who don't want to get bogged down by a bunch of information that they already have, or experiences that they don't need to go through again just to get to the meat of this game. I can't wait for players to step out into these big environments and start exploring them. I mean, the environment that we showed at E3 this year, our spring environment, the Volga, is one of our larger levels, and there's hours of gameplay along the critical path, along the main story thread inside that level, and there's hours more content of just side exploration, side content things you can find just by walking around and immersing yourself in the environment. This game is massive in scale compared to the original titles. It's much larger, and it's the largest thing that we have ever undertaken as a studio, the most ambitious thing that we've ever undertaken as a studio. So players can definitely expect this to be much larger than the previous games that they've played in the series. We were originally slated for 2018 release, and now we're targeting February 22nd, 2019. That's our goal. We're really confident in that date, and the reason we chose a new date was, we got all of the game in place, and we're playtesting it. We're putting polish on it. Deciding what kind of game we had at the end of the day, because until you have all the pieces in place, there's you can still kind of only speculate on what the full experience is really going to be like. And we sat down, we looked at it, we looked at the release window, we looked at any number of things, and from all points of the business, from development side, from the publishing side, we all agreed that February 22nd would be the best date for the game. It does, by the nature of moving that date out, give us more time for polish, and it is purely polish time. Like, the game is in place, all the features are there, all the content is there, so this time that we have right now is purely polish time. So it's going to benefit the game in so many ways.